You know that I do the thing. Hey, how's it going? So this is the thing. Yeah. So painting this guy. You know this guy. Come on, you know that guy, right? Painting the guy. So we're painting the guy purple. And just using one color here. This is there's no like color mixing or whatever. I'm just using like a pretty basic watercolor palette here. I'm just using the Prang watercolors. If you've ever seen those like plastic trays with like the dry watercolors in there, you add water and mix them up. That's what I'm using. I really like using those ones. It's super easy, and I tend to like the texture of the pan watercolors more than like a traditional liquid or tube watercolor. I've used tube watercolors and they're really nice. Like, don't get me wrong, they're great for blending, but I'm not much of a blender, to be honest. I like to layer, and the pan watercolors work really great for that. I like having the little plastic tray to mix it in. I like using the water brush. You can tell here I'm using a water brush, Pentel water brush. This one is actually my partner's, and I always steal it to use it. Sorry, Jelana. I'm sorry I use your water brush all the time. But yeah, that's what I'm using. It's really nice because you can control the water flow really easy, and the brush is always wet. Because when you're using a traditional brush, you obviously need to dip it in water to get it wet, and then you mix it with your paint. And I find that if you want like a really even tone and you like layering with your watercolor like I do, when you're dipping your brush all the time, adding water is gonna dilute your mix, and you're always gonna be adding more paint and adding more water. You're just gonna end up with a ton of watery crud in your palette, and that's a little hard to work with sometimes. So I like the water brush because it keeps things a little bit cleaner. And I usually just dip directly into the paint, and then go on the page. And I use the paper towel to blot out places where I want to be a little lighter if I do a big wash, and then blot out some of the color. And I'm just constantly layering, as you can see throughout. It's really clear in the time lapse, kind of how I work, where I'll lay down a lot of dark color and then pull it out and then blend it out and then let that area dry and then layer over it again. I really like painting this way, and you don't have to limit this style to one color. It's really easy doing like Pokemon and stuff that only have a few colors, or you can kind of reduce their color palette to one color. It makes it really fun, and adding just a few little areas of color here and there for accent, can really add to this style. And I've recommended this style before if you're new to like any kind of watercolor style mediums, whether it be watercolor or gouache, or even like liquid ink, stuff like that. It's really kind of difficult to jump into the whole thing with all the color mixing and color theory, doing all that. If you want to just get some practice in, try doing some rough sketches with like a one color watercolor. It can really help you get familiar with the medium a lot quicker without having to worry about all the other stuff. So, oh my goodness. Okay. All right. Yeah. So, once I've done my watercolor, which is pretty much done at this point, I will usually go back over my line work if I'm working in pencil, and darken some areas up, because it really gets kind of washed out when you're kind of watercoloring, because the watercolor will pick up some of the graphite pigment if you're using graphite, or sorry, the graphite particles, and kind of lift them and move them around. So you'll notice that your line work kind of gets a little fuzzy underneath the watercolor. So I like to come in with another dark pencil and kind of go back over some of the really important areas, and then that's pretty much my finishing touches here. I add a little bit of white highlights with like a white gel pen here and there, but yeah, nothing fancy. I like using simple materials. I like doing simple drawings, and one color watercolor. I'm going to be doing a lot more of this, at least experimenting with it a lot more. So keep an eye out for that. And if you have questions, comments, let me know. I love to hear from you guys. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You're awesome people. I say it every time, but like, for real, all my followers, all my friends, new and old, you are so great. You're awesome. Thank you. Bye. Bye.